Hi there, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. Now over the years I've gone over some new blending tools, I've compared them to older blending tools that I absolutely love and really showed the differences between a lot of different blending tools that are on the market. However, in today's video I'm going to be walking you guys through some of my favorite blending tools. I have kept several in my craft room that I stick to and I use them all for different things. I'm going to show you what I use them for in my craft room, and that way you can either invest in all of them if you love them for all of the different things you do, or pick and choose with what techniques you like to do to see which blending tool would suit you best. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Alright, now before I get into anything, let's talk today about cardstock and what the differences between cardstock are, because that is really important to how your blending is going to come out. Now I have my Simon Hurley Create Stark White cardstock, which I took a long time to find and figure out which one is going to be best for my card making. And it is super bright white, but besides that, it's really formulated to work with water and also do ink blending absolutely really well. So I'm going to go on here, I've already kind of shared this example, but I wanted to share it again here. So I'll go in and I'll start my ink blending on here, and you can really ink blend and kind of fade out and move that ink around. And if I wanted to, I can go in and even make several layers of ink, really build it up on there. It's a very buildable cardstock. So you're able to get that really super vibrant tone of whatever ink you're blending out. And you can see over time, it'll even smooth into the cardstock more and give that really stunning effect. Something that I really look for with a cardstock is to make sure that when I'm pressing my finger in here, it's not removing the ink off of the surface and gonna make fingerprints all over the place. That's one thing that I really like with this dark white cardstock, that you're able to get those really amazing blends and build up that color to its full intensity. Now this is another cardstock that I used for a long period of time before I used mine, and I thought it was the best cardstock on the market at that point. Now this is how my blending looks. It's not at all bad per se. You're already going to notice though, you can kind of wipe off some with your finger, and there is a lot there that you can move around the cardstock, which kind of bothers me whenever I'm on a cardstock like this and it doesn't dry in. But then also, you'll see how much lighter of a color this is, right? And you'll think maybe it's because I'm not building it up, but that is not true, because you can build up the color even more. But there's kind of a coating on the surface that you're not able to fully see, and it's on some different cardstocks. And what that means is it's not going to really sink in, and instead it's just going to kind of wipe off on whatever you have there and stay that one tone. So it's not going to be buildable, and unlike my cardstock, you're not able to get that really nice dark color. So that is why I really love my cardstock. It's 110 pound, and by no means am I saying you just need to use my Simon Hurley Create Stark White cardstock. If you're struggling with what cardstock you have, maybe give it a try, but there's a lot of different white cardstocks on the market, and maybe you have one that you absolutely love. So let's start off by talking about my two favorite, most used kind of large ink blending tools. I like the mini ink blending tools from Ranger. These are the round ones and they come in a pack of 2. And recently I've upgraded them to the domed blending tools, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that has been a game changer for me. Now when it comes to blender brushes, I like the Gina blender brushes. If you buy them in a full set, you get this really awesome holder with it, which I really like to hold all my blender brushes. But the reason why I like these so much is because they have the white bristles, so you're really easy able to see what color you have on it. Now I know there are a lot of blender brushes on the market. These are the ones that I found that I liked, but there are a lot that are similar that you can really get some great effects with. So let's compare these. Starting off with the blender brush and this prom queen color. I like to use this pink color because it's really nice and vibrant, so you're able to see any imperfections if there are any. I'm going to start right on the center of the cardstock because that's not something you usually do, but that's a big thing for me because I like to kind of create backgrounds right in the center. So being able to blend from the center is really, really important for me. Now one thing I notice with blender brushes, and this is nothing bad about blender brushes, but they do kind of just put more ink on the surface rather than kind of sink it into the grains of the cardstock. So I do notice a little bit more texture in it, but that's nothing too bad. It creates a really nice soft blend, which is one thing I really like about the blender brushes. Now let's do the same thing with the mini ink blending tool. Now the reason I like these little domed foam blenders is because it's much easier to start in the center of the cardstock. So I'll go right into the center and I will start blending outward, and you're easily able to get a smooth effect. And this was one coat and it pretty much looks the same as this, which I think was 2 to 3 layers, because I find that the foam applicator puts down a lot more ink, which is something we'll talk about a little bit more later. But this has been a game changer because a lot of people would not have even considered to be able to do that with this tool in the past, because it took a little bit more skill to not get any harsh lines, but now it's super easy to get that nice soft blend right from the center. But one thing that I do like about the blender brush is you're easily able to go right from the center and get this like super soft, almost pastel version of the pink color that we have going here really super easily. Like I said, you have to do more color building, but if you want a more soft pastel light color from a super vibrant color, it's really easy to do with a blender brush, which is one of my favorite things about them. Alright, now I've taped down my stencil. This is a recent stencil called Flower Power, and I've split the cardstock kind of in half with the blending tool on this side and the blender brushes on this side. So I'll pull out my Prom Queen ink first here with the domed blender foam. And one thing that I absolutely love about doing with the blending tool is you're able to get into some of these smaller details a lot easier because you have control over exactly where the foam is. And I like it too because like the dome really helps to, you know, get a different area. If you press later, you can get just the tip of the foam for even a smaller coverage, which I really enjoy. So I can go into here, into these flowers, and just kind of cover the center of that flower, which is super nice. Then I'm able to easily bring in a little bit of green to go in and do the leaves as well. So it's really taking on kind of the pattern of the stencil in accordance to the different colors because we have this smaller surface, so we can really easily color all of these in. Now, I was talking about kind of laying down a pattern. We'll try that with this. They do have a little bit of a bigger, more oval surface, so it's a little bit more difficult and exactly to control where all of the different brush heads go. But one thing I do like about these is you can kind of turn them and use just the tip of the brush if you do want to get into small areas like this. So I'll go in and kind of lay down that same thing. It's not as easy to control, so there is a little bit of color bleed, but not too big of an issue. Now, besides just the way that the color lays down, I think it'll give me a little bit of a different look when we lift off the stencil too. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Laying in a little bit of green here, and one thing I like about these blender brushes is if I want kind of a soft haze of color, it's really easy to do again. With just kind of a light hand, we can lay in a lot of that green color. Alright, it's time for the reveal. Let's peel this off. I've never really compared them head to head like this, but I do notice that with the blender brushes, you get a really nice crisp line along that stencil line, which is super awesome because it gets into all of that amazing detail. Here you get a little bit less crisp of a line. It's a little bit thicker, but lots of really bold color on here. One thing I do like is that you're able to, like I said, get into all of those small little areas and have not much bleed because of that tool. I use them kind of interchangeably with stencils and whatever I'm doing. So like if I'm creating a pattern of color, I kind of like to go in with the blending tools. And if I'm creating more of a wash across the whole background or things like that, I'll go in with the blender brushes. So it really depends, but I do like the nice crisp line that this gives with stencils. For this next example, I used the lovely Lilies background stamp from Hurley Create and just stamped it down onto a sheet of my stark white cardstock so I can demonstrate a fun blending technique on here. Now in one of my latest videos, I used this and some of my colors as well as my blending brushes to do a little bit of color blending, and I wanted it to be really light. So let me show you how I would do that. If I'm going in with a lighter color, you can see I use this for all of my purples. I just go in and make sure that it's nice and clean. Now sometimes a lot of color will come off, sometimes a little bit of color will come off, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting a true color, and the blending brushes are easier than the sponges to clean because they don't retain as much ink on the surface. So I tend to just have one for each color family instead of each color. When it comes to blending brushes, I love to use them in scenarios where I want a really light, soft color. And here I'm going in with Sidewalk Chalk, which is already a pretty light color, and I can go in and really easily blend that out and create that really beautiful look. And of course, we can layer things up if we want to. That you can also go in with more vibrant colors like Prom Queen and go in with the blender brush and get that really soft effect. So if I wanted to go in here and get more life out of this color, I can go in with a lot lighter of a hand, and really you don't even need to try with the blender brush. If you want a lighter color, you can even hold it from back here and you get a lot lighter of a pressure. And there you go. You can kind of go in with a super soft color, and it goes from a really vibrant one to being super soft. So that is when I would go in and use these. That's where I absolutely love them. And then, like I said too, you can get kind of that haze of color. So if I want like a wash of green where all those leaves are, I can go in here with just the tip of the blending brush and get a much lighter version of that green and kind of make it wash over. And there's not really any edges or anything like that. It kind of just fades into the white really super easily. Now there is one blending tool I haven't talked about yet in today's video, and they're some of my favorites. I think you guys will love them no matter what side you're on, whether it's blending brushes or both. These mini ink detail blending tools are so amazing. So they are double-sided. They come on kind of a wooden dowel like this, and they're the exact same foam that come with your foam ink blending tools like this. So all I need to do is go in with this, go in here, and let's say I want to add a little bit more to the center of that flower to make it just a little bit darker there. I can go right in with this and start blending that out, and you get really awesome depth in there. You can see it made the center just a lot darker. And you're not like making the whole thing dark by going in with a huge blending tool. I can also go into the leaves. You can see I did a light wash, but if I want to go in and make a little bit more color where the actual image is, I can totally do that. So it just kind of creates a really easy way to add some shading and depth and dimension. Also, these are at a great price point for a pack of, I think, 5 of them, which is awesome, and that means you can put 10 colors on it since they are double-sided. Now let's take a trip down memory lane and go into the flower maker stencil. I have a lot of different stencils in my line, like the shell maker, the flower maker, and there's a couple more. But this is where these mini ink blending tools also really come in handy. Now there's 3 different flowers in this stencil, and you can kind of follow along the row to finish off the flower. I'm gonna create the middle flower here, but I'll probably make a video about this in the future because I kind of forgot about how much I loved this stencil. I'll go in with a little bit of Prom Queen, and I'll start off with my sponge blender tool. So I'll just go into here and start that blending. Now this comes in handy because if I want to go in with one of these mini ink tools and I want to add a little bit of a second color in here, that's where this is really awesome. I really created these stencils because I wanted you to be able to put as many colors as you want on each layer and really make it super fun and colorful and realistic with all of that shading. So I'm able to go in here with a lot smaller of a detailed tool and add a little bit of highlights with that orange color to create a whole new color on there, which I think is just awesome. Then I'm going to take this stencil and just move it down the row. Here we have this second layer, and I'll just line it up, and these petals should go kind of in between the other ones. It'll overlap just a little bit, and then I can go in with my mini ink blending tool and just start blending on the surface. Now, one thing I love about these two is they retain so much ink. I think this color is Triple Berry, and I was able to go in without even like going back into the ink pad to refill it. And I like to go in with the detail blenders for all these small little areas because they're a little bit more difficult to get in with the large blending tools. So I'll go into there with that, and then we can add the detail down with the next layer. Here I'm switching to Slippery and Wet, which is a little bit of a darker color, and I'm sticking with the detail blending tool because this is super tiny, and you're able to really get that tool into there and fill in all of that amazing little detail by pressing the little ink blending tool into there. And there we have filled in the center of our flower. You guys might have thought I was done with this blending tool, but there really is so much you can do with the mini. I'll go in with some of these leaves, and one thing that I love about them is I don't have to mask with it. So I'm going to go into a little bit of overzealous ink, and I'm just going to go around the edge, and I'm really easily able to kind of go around that flower, follow the area of it with this mini blending tool, and I don't have to mask it all because I can just use the tiny little edge that it has to go in and do all of my shading and blending on the leaf. And then here I can go in with a little bit of Later Gator and add some shading to one side of that leaf to add a little bit of depth and dimension to it. Then I'm going to move my stencil a little bit. I want to add another leaf in here. And again, no masking necessary because I don't have to worry about overlapping anything when I'm going in with such a small ink blending tool. And then once again, I can go in with Later Gator and add a little bit of shading to one side of that leaf to add a little bit more depth and dimension to it. Alright, now I want to take a second in today's video to thank our sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives like me and you, or people who just want to learn something new. They have so many different online classes in topics like arts, crafts, graphic design, and illustration, which I think you guys would enjoy, but they also have a lot of other topics which are really great, so there's something for everybody on the site. Now recently, I've been taking an online class in illustration for Procreate on the iPad. I draw and design all of my stamp sets for my line Simon Hurley Create, and this has been super helpful for me to learn the ins and outs of Procreate and really see lots of improvement on my drawing as I take these classes. Skillshare is less than $10 a month with an annual membership, and the first 1,000 people that use my link down below in the description box will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So I hope you guys will check that out if you're interested. Alright guys, I hope you found this video super helpful if you're just starting to get into ink blending, or your tools aren't working for you and you wanted to see what I use. I love these 3 different options. So I'll leave links down below to all of the different tools and things that I talked about in today's video. Leave comments down below what you guys use and what you would recommend, or if you have any of these and absolutely love them. And be sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you never miss another card making and crafting video like this one from me. Alright guys, have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye!